Hey guys, so the latest court rulings against NewJeans and their mama, and not to mention their real mamas, their real daddies, have not been good. We're gonna go over the cascade of lawsuits that are not going in their favor and all of the evidence that has been sauce spilling all over the place over those legal briefs. And yes, I am back. I apologize for the lengthy hiatus. I actually just got really sick of thinking about Jezebels, and I think they even put a curse on me or something, because it wasn't as if I was even so sick of them. I just didn't care about Jezebels. You know, whether they came in a wig, a mask, you found them at the bakery, or they're wearing a baseball cap. Yes, go Dodgers. But it was very odd because I just didn't want to think about them, and I was working on a bunch of different projects. But you know me, when witches start acting like bitches, not gonna have it. And we gotta dissect it. Maybe one or the other you can stomach, but when they come together, And we really gotta know, with all this new evidence, whose mama did they actually get it all from?
I got it from my mama. I got it from my mama.
So in some ways, this complicated web of lawsuits has been simplified conceptually by NewJeans and Min Hee-jin themselves, because they have tied their fates together. A lot of the arguments are unified, but legally they're separate lawsuits. And it's interesting because at first it worked against HYBE and its other sub-labels, but now I think it's working in favor of HYBE and the other sub-labels because the treachery has now been compartmentalized. So it's less overwhelming, I believe, in court, and then also the reports that come out, because the source music lawsuit, where they're defending themselves against the defamation and actually launching an attack onto Min Hee-jin, shows the treachery that happened in source music land, in particular all of the claims that Min Hee-jin brought up to light, saying that she had discovered the NewJeans girls and therefore she is pivotal to being their producer, when it doesn't say that in the contract at all. Then, of course, the HYBE shareholder agreement lawsuit with Min Hee-jin also shows that treachery of her trying to steal a company. And then the actual ruling that we got in the case against NewJeans by HYBE to maintain their exclusive artist contract shows a more compartmentalized argument that favors HYBE yet again when it comes to managing NewJeans and addressing a lot of the claims that NewJeans made against HYBE that was completely rejected by the court. So in a nutshell, right before Halloween, before all of them freaky, deaky Jezebels had their day of candy and ghoulishness, the court in Korea ruled that NewJeans must stay with ADOR, and thereby upholding the exclusive contract. And as we already saw from the nuggets that the judge had been giving to NewJeans early on in the trial process at each hearing, saying like, look, don't you want to settle? Essentially giving them a clue that we already wrote our answer to this case and you're gonna lose. So you might as well, have some Hail Marys and then go over back to work and continue your careers and detach from NewJeans' mama. Well, of course they didn't do that. They're doubling down. And so what we saw on October 30th was the ruling in the case, essentially. And the reason why it's not over per se is that they can appeal. You can appeal to the higher court, the appellate court, and then if that doesn't go in your favor, you can petition to go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court could accept your case or not accept your case. So you could see how Hanni's big old National Assembly ploy was a bit of, I think, a pre-strategy to try to justify it going up to the Supreme Court level. However, all the way down here in what they call like the first level court, it's all tomfoolery, been proven, established, and any judge that goes along with the Hanni Gate will probably be laughed out of their robe. The court essentially found insufficient grounds to support NewJeans' claims that they needed to terminate the contract because of NewJeans' mama's firing and ADOR's failure to protect the members. The court said, no, absolutely not. Min Hee-jin does not need to be the CEO of ADOR in order for the exclusive contract with NewJeans to be valid. Not only that, ADOR has proven above and beyond that they are capable of taking care of the girls' careers regardless of who is the CEO. Not to mention, Min Hee-jin herself turned down the offer of staying on as the producer in charge of NewJeans. So, in the court's eyes, it doesn't make any sense because Min Hee-jin could have stayed on and done all of the producing and still had been in agreement with HYBE's upper level management in how ADOR was being structured. So if you're trying to make the argument that we need our mama for our auto-tune to work, the court said no. Any other person at HYBE can push the auto-tune button, ladies, so get back to work. So the court said there was no managerial vacuum created with Min Hee-jin leaving, and ADOR maintained its ability to fulfill its contractual obligations. The members' personal trust in Min Hee-jin alone does not establish that ADOR has to guarantee her CEO position under their exclusive contract. NewJeans really didn't have anything new to say via their lawyers. The lawyers said that we're going to appeal this decision, so they're going to draw this out even more. Mind you, their contract ends in July 2029. That's like 4 years from now. Sure, they could drag this lawsuit out all the way till the end, but they would literally have no place to occupy in the Kpop world if they're not going to do it now. And so the girls are doubling down, they're supporting Min Hee-jin, and the lawyer said, given the relationship of trust with ADOR has been completely destroyed, it's impossible for them to return and continue normal entertainment activities under the company. Now, again, that's tricky language. Yes, the relationship of trust with ADOR has been completely destroyed by NewJeans. They're trying to insinuate that it was HYBE that destroyed this trust. No, it was destroyed by Min Hee-jin, first of all, then her roping in the members and the parents. So collectively, they destroyed it. And yes, they are being rational in a sense that, I mean, really, nobody can really step back into that office and expect to not be at the bare minimum ostracized. Oh my goodness. Unless that place also has a chapel or something in HYBE, the retribution or the instinct for revenge, settling scores is going to be through the roof. Also, the court was very clear that they did not buy Min Hee-jin's whole press conference and her campaign. So the court said that it cannot be viewed that Min Hee-jin's actions were for the purpose of safeguarding the group, adding that the efforts were not directly linked to the members' independence. So the court is basically saying that Min Hee-jin was doing this for her own benefit, her own gain, her own agenda, and you ladies fell into her trap. So HYBE, of course, welcomed the decision, and they said, "We sincerely hope today's result will serve as an opportunity for the artists to calmly reflect on the matter. We also take this time to reaffirm our responsibilities as a management agency. As stated during the main trial, we have completed preparations for a full-length album and future activities." Yes, it came through, the court filing and all the documents that HYBE has already prepared tracks. And, where basically you get the music, the songs from whoever produced it, and then the girls are supposed to come in and lay their vocals onto it, which they have not done. Now, full-length album, as far as I know, what I've heard, that the songs that are ready to go, it's about 5 songs at least, but 5 songs. So what about the era where a full-length album was 12 songs? Well, in NewJeans land, there are other albums. They've never had a full-length album, even under this new generous system of fewer songs. And so I guess 5 could be a full-length album for them. Of course, it's not exactly clear how many they're going to settle on, but we do know that the music is not produced by Min Hee-jin's go-to group or producing entity, Bana, and that was the, talented producer, yes, right? So he made Attention, Hype Boy, OMG, and Ditto, even though, some of them sound like something else. But it definitely was catchy. This time around, not so much. Maybe they don't like the new music. But on the other hand, if they were really true musicians, they could be making their own music. Let's move on to the next domino that's falling in NewJeans land. ILLIT has been cleared. When Min Hee-jin went out for her press conference, she said that she was being attacked. She was the victim of HYBE because HYBE launched this retaliatory or predatory audit of her company at the time when she was the CEO of ADOR, because she said that she was a whistleblower and she was being punished for being a whistleblower in the form of ILLIT, a competing girl group in her eyes, even though everybody in HYBE is supposed to be one big family, that they were plagiarizing NewJeans. And she said that was the reason for the audit. However, the court did not view ILLIT as plagiarizing NewJeans. Not only that, now that we've had some more time where everything settles down a bit, we can see the actual facts of the matter. She brought up the case of ILLIT plagiarizing after her audit already started. Her audit started because she was doing shady stuff and it looked like she was trying to steal a company and a girl group. And so that's why the audit started in like January, February, really got heated in March. And then she started saying these plagiarism claims in April. So if it was a retaliation against what she said about the ILLIT situation in April, then the audit should have started in April or May. But it started all the way back months earlier. So she's lying. That's not the reason why somebody was trying to audit you. Now let's move on to Shady Dispatch's TLDR version of the court ruling when it came to the NewJeans versus ADOR verdict. They said that Min Hee-jin's name has been in the mouth of this ruling 104 times. So nobody's paying attention to any kind of request saying, keep Min Hee-jin's name out your mouth, judge. Oh, the judges said it 104 times. The top 15 points that were important to dispatch. Number one, nowhere in this exclusive contract does it stipulate that Min Hee-jin must perform management duties for NewJeans. So nowhere in NewJeans' contract requires NewJeans' mama, Min Hee-jin. Number two, there's evidence that HYBE poured a lot of resources and attention into cultivating NewJeans. It was not a situation where NewJeans was neglected or was on the chopping block to be eliminated. To the contrary, the fact that all of the ADOR employees worked exclusively for NewJeans. They had all the employees on, the sub-label for them as NewJeans. They got a dedicated app instead of Weverse. They created a whole new app for NewJeans. That should have been the biggest red flag, but hindsight 2020. They got expensive accommodations, so them judges are looking at that apartment being like, dedicated dance practice room and styling room, so didn't fly. Also, they mentioned how NewJeans was able to appear in a BTS music video before their debut, and that was a big thing. And not only that, it turns out that the person that got them into that music video that convinced the big hit team was not even Min Hee-jin. It was the Source Music CEO, the dude that recruited all of these girls and then had Min Hee-jin steal them from him. He still went to bat for these girls to be in that music video. No wonder Min Hee-jin thought she could steal, because she probably thought like, oh, everybody's a fool here. But so ungrateful. 3. NewJeans claims that HYBE conducted a retaliatory audit on Min Hee-jin around April 2024, but it was Min Hee-jin herself who started the public opinion war and set that April 2024 as the starting point. However, there's proof that the audit started in February and March, so obviously she lied. Number 4, Min Hee-jin was the CEO of ADOR during the period of all of the main complaints that NewJeans has been making about how, oh, this company is not taking care of us. So that doesn't make sense, because if that were the case, then it would be Min Hee-jin's fault and not the new management of ADOR, or thereby, by proxy, HYBE. Number 5, Min Hee-jin prepared in advance a public opinion campaign and reports to relevant organizations and lawsuits with the intention of making ADOR, which includes NewJeans, independent from HYBE. So the court sees the whole kind of trickery, the JIT book, in action. And from their perspective, they're seeing like, this is like a corporate kind of malfeasance. Number 6, in the process, they plan to naturally create public opinion that HYBE had treated NewJeans unfairly by using the NewJeans parents to talk to the media, to complain about, oh, my precious daughter is being treated so poorly by being in a luxury apartment infested with roaches. Which was probably not true, and even if it were true, it's probably because the trash and the empty snack wrappers that the girls were leaving themselves instead of cleaning. Number 7, on the other hand, Min Hee-jin also sought out investors to acquire ADOR. That's a huge no-no for the court. Min Hee-jin's actions cannot be seen as intended to protect NewJeans from breach of contract obligations. So yeah, trying to steal a company is supposed to protect the NewJeans girls. And they also said nowhere in the conversations between Min Hee-jin and Executive L, so basically her henchman, does it appear that the goal was to protect NewJeans. So in the public relations battle, they kept saying this was all done for the protection of NewJeans, whereas well, we see the evidence of your conversations, and nowhere was NewJeans the number one priority. it was you, girl, trying to get your bag. Number 8, NewJeans' claim of non-performance of ADOR's obligations is the result of Min Hee-jin's work to find the elements necessary to form negative public opinion and file a lawsuit against HYBE. So the court's saying, like, we found evidence. You were making a plotation to try to sue HYBE so that you can take the company that they paid for, that they paid to create, and steal it away, all in the name of protecting these girls, because your objective was to win in the court of public opinion so single-handedly that it wouldn't even go to court. However, that's not what happened. Number 9, it seems that ADOR intended to become independent from HYBE, or that Min Hee-jin herself would take NewJeans with her to become independent from ADOR and HYBE. So they've seen the evidence. This, yes, was a big plot that was cooking intentionally. It was not all happenstance. You did not just press some buttons on the microwave and boop, out popped Thanksgiving dinner, a turkey, and all the sides. You were planning it, and that takes a long time to baste and roast. Number 10, it appears that Hanni either did not hear or does not remember exactly what the ILLIT manager said. The expression ignore, which NewJeans claims as evidence of bullying, was first used by Min Hee-jin. So they didn't really get into the whole semantics of, like, that's not even like on the scale of bullying. They're saying, like, look, we don't even believe that this term was used, because from the evidence of the Kakao talks that we've seen, Min Hee-jin was the one that suggested, planted the idea. Did she say ignore? And then even Hanni herself was like, oh, well, forget about it. I didn't really understand, or like, I don't really remember exactly what happened. And then we saw all the video evidence of them of ILLIT bowing to them, destroying any credibility in this whole farce and story that went all the way to the National Assembly. Number 11, it is difficult to rule out the possibility that Hanni's memories and expressions of the situation at the time were distorted during her conversation with Min Hee-jin. So essentially the court is saying, like, you got gaslit, girl. In particular, Hanni appears to be unfamiliar with Korean. Also, like, low-key shade, saying, like, you don't even know the language, and you're out here throwing major accusations on the national level. Number 12, Min Hee-jin reconstructed the situation at the time as if Hanni had been directly and aggressively attacked, even though Hanni couldn't even express it accurately. So they're really honing in on how Min Hee-jin had manipulated the situation. Number 13, there's no evidence that NewJeans' album was trying to get pushed or deprioritized. But what is clear is that Min Hee-jin used that story as a means to publicly attack HYBE. And not only that, there's evidence that she had no interest in rectifying this issue, even if it existed at all, because where is the proof of those actions, especially when she was out there crying how, the order of debut and the album releases reflected how much HYBE hated them and undervalued them, when actually there was evidence of her saying, like, well, you know what? It's good that we debut last, because when you look at a performance on stage, the main character is always last, or like, the biggest name is always last in the concert or something like that. So obviously the court knows that she lied. Number 14, in the case of management contracts, especially in the pre-debut stage like NewJeans, large investments are typically made when the entertainer's success is uncertain, thereby saying that this is an investment by investors into a group that really has a very low chance of success. And the return on that investment is typically only realized if the entertainer succeeds. However, if the entertainer, after receiving this full support under an exclusive contract, and they build a recognition and fan base, then just tries to control the company or leave the company with decision-making authority over personnel matters, content production, and other matters within the management company's purview and domain. And then they invalidate the contract on top of that. That would constitute an easy exit from an exclusive contract without justifiable cause. So that basically means that they're going to destroy the entire foundation of the K-pop ecosystem. So if the group inside the management company is allowed to essentially stage like a coup d'etat over the thing and then say like, okay, bye, we're gone, then who in their right mind would ever give a group like NewJeans tons of money to get started, and then after they become successful, they get nothing in return? The court doesn't like stuff like that. 15, the exclusive contract for this case remains valid. ADOR serves as the management agency for NewJeans under the exclusive contract for this case. So, in a nutshell, it was very predictable what the court ruled because we had seen them laying the breadcrumbs of this logic and arguments throughout the hearings. And the real important thing of this case is centering around tampering. So tampering that made it into the public lexicon in Korea about K-pop contracts. Essentially what that means is that you have an exclusive contract as the artist and the management agency, and if the artist is not acting in good faith and wants to take the investment money and then cut and run, they're not going to do it essentially themselves. Tampering, in a sense, is that you start getting other people and investors or people who are going to gain from it to help you, and then bash this situation where then maybe legally the management company is just tired of all this drama and then just lets them go. For example, all them bunny uncles in South Korea, especially at the National Assembly. I wonder if there's a National Assembly bunny uncle law for tampering with K-pop girl groups, because obviously we saw that, and that essentially tampering. So all those lawmakers, I think they should be charged with tampering. So isn't it very rich in this case how there were accusations lobbed against HYBE to say, don't use artists as a shield to get your agenda across and hide your crimes, when it was very clear that Min Hee-jin, NewJeans' mama, has been using not only the girls but their parents as shields for her war against HYBE. And how it's so obvious now that she really just uses people with like no conscience, because it was just almost a year ago in July 2024 when Danielle's mom was vehemently out there in the public and making accusations against Source Music and HYBE, saying that, we were told that we were going to be the first girl group to debut. Even if that were true, I'm still shocked at how people think that that was actually like a legitimate argument. They took that more seriously than other things, like Hanni's recollection of being told, just ignore her, as a case on par in terms of labor violations at the National Assembly with parents who lost their kids, adult kids, working in a factory accident. But we'll go with it. They were vehemently supporting NewJeans' mama. And they're saying, like, how am I supposed to trust HYBE with my daughter? You never know when HYBE is going to manipulate with lies without facts to harass my daughter. So now it turns out with Source Music's case against Min Hee-jin, we're getting some receipts spilled out in the documents, and it shows that Min Hee-jin's story of essentially being their mama has been totally obliterated with evidence. Remember, Min Hee-jin was saying, like, look, I of course have to be their producer. I of course have to be the CEO of ADOR. Of course have to take care of these girls because I found them. I recruited them. HYBE used my name to start this girl group, and therefore the parents and these girls came to HYBE because of me. And I have been just kicked out unceremoniously. Well, it turns out that Source Music kept all the receipts. And in previous cycles of reporting this, it seemed like, well, maybe she had a strong hand in recruiting one or two of the members, but actually turns out none. Absolutely none. Well, we'll start off with Danielle because her mama was yapping pretty loud. And she was transferred to Source, not because of Min Hee-jin, but because Danielle was at a different agency, and the person that she had worked closely with had gotten a job over at Source. So, hey, that was kind of smart. You go with your advocate, like, with somebody who's really supporting you in the company. And so she just followed that person over to Source. Not only that, in a practice video, Danielle said herself, if I don't become a confirmed member, then give me the right to transfer or the choice to stay. So never had any mention of NewJeans' mama there, because NewJeans' mama wasn't even in the picture then. Heron's mother was also on video saying that, wow, I can't believe that Source Music came all the way to our town, Anyang, to find my daughter. And so she attributes the casting, the going into HYBE and Source Music from the Source Music team and CEO, not Min Hee-jin. Then they start changing their story years later. In Haein's case, there's evidence that the CEO personally came forward to persuade Heejin's parents. Min Hee-jin never participated as a judge in the audition that selected Hanni. And also the court threw shade at her saying, like, look, she doesn't really have that big of an international profile. So even if you toss out Min Hee-jin's name in a worldwide casting, what are the chances that, Miss Thang from Australia, via Vietnam is going to really even care about Min Hee-jin? And then Minji was already selected by Source Music before Min Hee-jin even joined HYBE. So this whole fantasy of her being a mama that birthed these kids has been completely obliterated by all of the special sauce that Source Music provided the court. So what's Mama up to now? Of course, she's already got 2 steps forward into her next devious plot, even while everything is not resolved with her case against HYBE. Apparently, she has officially launched a new entertainment company, and it is called, because, she has like some, weird ideas for names and stuff. She claims that it's called OOAK. How do you spell it? OOAK. Somehow that's supposed to be okay. And other people saying it's one of a kind. But really, when you look at it in the English and you try to pronounce it without knowing that it's supposed to supposedly be okay, it's like OOAK. OOAK. And OOAK is essentially like one of those sound words that indicate a bit of like rough, coarse kind of almost like a some sort of like a hit. So you use it in the sense of like he grabbed the other person roughly by the collar. He roughly pulled her arm towards him. He's rough spoken or crude. So I think that's much closer to the heart and the spirit of the founder, Ms. Min Hee-jin, who's out there in public. Remember at her press conference calling all of her former colleagues like dog ajashis. That is pretty OOAK. So the company's registered office is near Karosugil, and yeah, internet sleuths already found the location, and the building apparently is going to be demolished, and there's going to be a new one in its place. And you're probably wondering, like, that looks like a multifamily house, and essentially that is what it is in Korea. It's a villa about 4 stories high, and on each floor maybe there's 1 or 2 units, and this is definitely in the neighborhood of like mixed use, where essentially it was residential, and then now it's like very mixed with businesses and residential, but still sort of like a residential thing. So it's definitely like 1,000 steps down from the HYBE building. There's stuff circulating online that the owners of this building that is going to rent it out to Ms. Min Hee-jin are a group of doctors who invested in this real estate together. And I just need to say, doctors, hold on to your licenses, because somehow she gets a plotation going and traps you into it. You're about to lose it all. So be very careful. And yes, just a quick little update. V did end up going to Vogue World in Hollywood after all, but he looked like he was dragged, okay? And this is a situation where I don't think that Anna Wintour has probably ever faced this situation where the invite to him was only accepted out of sheer obligation to protect the rest of the other people in his company, that he had to go essentially because he would probably not want to suffer any kind of ramifications that would be caused by him snubbing Anna Wintour that would affect all of the other artists at HYBE. So, she's used to the world where everybody is dying to get an invitation and is just like trying to shake down Emily for an invite. Whereas he's essentially now going to this with huge resentment, and that actually is not going to work out well for the Vogue side, because they had to strong arm him into going. He could have had a good time. It could have been an amazing event. Don't really know. It was so insular, so close. It's supposed to be for the world, and yet they had it super closed off, private, with tons of security. And then again, also very political. Not a good thing to get involved in. And speaking of a real flex, the real flex was happening over in Seoul when you had real people doing some real business, all casual like. You had the CEO of Samsung, NVDIA, and HYUNDAI doing the Love Shot Boilermakers at a Korean barbecue restaurant. Obviously, they chose a spot by the window, probably, to create a media sensation, but that's the real front row, okay? Not some artificial thing at a Hollywood studio lot that's probably been vacant because somebody's ruined the entertainment industry in Los Angeles. So what do you guys think? Do you think NewJeans has any hope in their appeal? Do you think NewJeans' mama is going to be able to pull some other kind of rabbit out of her hat and throw it into the masticator? Or do you think it's essentially cooked, done, and now we are just ready for BTS's new album coming out next year, and the world tour, and all of the amazing things that the other real artists over at HYBE are doing? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.